Hello, live? Yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are so happy to have you here. I'm so glad, myself and my team. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you for making it. And I'm very, very convinced that you are not going to regret making it a day with us today. We have our coach charge up for today, and it's going to be awesome. And please, wherever you are, if you are joining us, just speak. Let's show a sign, say hi, however you want to do it. Give us a thumb up. Wherever you are, just do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, yes, please give us a shout out. Thank you very much. Thank you. Josh, I know you can hear me. Can you resend the link to Mayokun? I think Mayokun was using last week. Have you? Yeah. So and if you could communicate with Mayokun as well, so that I can Josh, if you could communicate to Mayokun. Yeah, you're doing that. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. I can see guys joining from multiple locations. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, like I said, I am so convinced that you're not going to regret joining us. So while we are getting people to join, let's have one or more people. Then we'll go straight into the event. Our coach is already in the studio with us, and I tell you, we had a tech run, dry run yesterday. We are ready for today. She's so excited to be here, to be a blessing to us. Yeah, thank you, Olaolu from the UK. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Let's keep it. And while you are joining, please remind your friends, remind your colleagues that please we have already started it so that they can join us. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Keep coming, keep it coming. Yeah, and I want to use this opportunity to thank those of us that joined our last event last December, right? And I noticed a lot of people went back to rewatch it. It was really, and the feedback we had was really, really good. And we are improving on some of the suggestions we had. And while we are joining, I just want to prep us that the goal is to have this event every 2 months. But because of January and February, our coach could not make it in February. So we are doing this in March. So technically, we should be having one by April. There will be another one in April so that we can balance this up. So yeah, thank you very much. I think we're just going to go straight. I'm going to start right away. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the platform, the network that brought about this event. And this is a Christian faith-based network. It is a vision God gave to me, and this is because I strongly believe that God created us all to be a blessing and a positive influence in our world on his behalf, on God's behalf. God expects us to achieve this by unlocking our full potentials, by especially understanding the marketplace. We cannot afford to leave the marketplace for everybody. God is interested in your success in the marketplace as much as he's interested in your success spiritually. So gone are the days where we sit down in the corners of our churches and leave every areas of life to any other person, and we sit down complaining, reactive. So, and that's one of the things that this platform is trying to address. So I personally believe that marketplace is critical in God's end time agenda. So this network is created to be a part of the platform to raise arrowheads for God's end time agenda. So that's what it is, and I want to plead with you to promote this, share this with your friends and everybody you have in your network. And we want you to be a winner right here on earth. And when we at the other side of the eternity, we want you also, goal is for you to be a winner. And God is interested. God is interested in every part of your life. It's not only in church. He wants you to be successful in your business, in your career. He wants you to be top of wherever vocation you are. And that's what this marketplace, Kings and Priests Global Network, is all about. And I've had some people joking that, oh, what's going on? It's this looks like a masculine thing, kings and priests. Actually, many of you, if you read Revelation 1-6, you know, in the biblical terms, there are no genders, so to say. So we are just using the term from the Bible to call ourselves. So it's for everybody, women, men, and we have people that are not Christian as well on this, because that is also very important. We want everybody. We love our neighbors. We want everybody to benefit from what we are doing here. So without much ado, we're having a bit of technical glitch because our communication team lead should be here. Oh, she's here now. Mayokun, can we put Mayokun on? Yeah, Mayokun is in the studio now. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, everyone. You know, like, okay, Mayokun, thank you very much. Sorry for that initial glitch. So I'm done with my side, and I'm going to leave you to continue from here. And then after that, we introduce our speaker. She's ready. She's at the backstage. Yeah. Yeah, the floor is yours. You want to unmute yourself, Mayokun? Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you joining from the Mountain Standard Time Zone, and for those joining from other time zones, we say good day to you as well. Thank you for joining this masterclass. It promises to be exciting, it promises to be intriguing, and we're hopeful that at the end of this class, we would have learned a thing or two that we will be able to implement. We're hopeful that we'll get feedback from the aftermath of this masterclass. We are super excited to hear that which Coach Buki has to share. Trust me, she's a powerhouse. She's someone you do not want to miss this class. Just as Dr. Ebukunle rightly said, if you have people that you would want them to still join this class, please feel free to share the email you got earlier today to invite them. If you have friends that you both registered and you can't see them in the chat box, please reach out to them. This class is not the class you'll want to miss. As we have said, this is Realize Your Career Potential class. It's going to equip you with tools and strategies to unlock your full potential without you necessarily having to compromise your standard. Because it seems as if in this new time, you have to give one thing to get the other. But we are trying to see how we can advance the right way, how we can gain strategies the right way without having to lose one part of us or drop a side of us. You don't have to, for example, drop your faith because you need to get a promotion. I mean, these are the things we are going to learn how to get them ahead. We're also going to learn key principles. We're going to hear strategic career positioning. And
Okay.
also going to be learning how to attract exciting opportunities. Um, Dr. Ebukunle had given a brief rundown of the mission Coach Buki. Can we please take a second to follow
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if you bring me back on stage, Josh, then I can introduce our guest speaker. Thank you, Mayokun, very well. So apologies everyone for the let me introduce Coach Buki to you. Coach Buki is an executive coach with a particular focus on helping ambitious senior level professionals to excel in their role and fast track their career. Buki started her career at EY, where she qualified as a chartered accountant and a chartered tax advisor. Prior to the retraining and transitioning to full-time coaching, she spent 15 years in her corporate career as a UK and international tax specialist, working with global brands in the natural resources sectors. Now she works with ambitious people like us, senior level professionals across the globe on a mission to help them bring their best self to their role, do their best work, and be fulfilled in their career. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Coach Buki Ishola. And thank you very much. The stage is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Ibekunle. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Super delighted to be here. Thank you for joining us. And as Dr. Ibekunle said, I'm Coach Buki. Well, I'm Buki Ishola, aka Coach Buki, and we are here to talk about realizing your potential. Realizing your potential. And I guess I want to start by first acknowledging your time. I know many of us are very busy professionals. You've worked Monday to Friday, and here you are joining this event again on Saturday. So really want to acknowledge your time. And as Dr. Ibikunle said at the beginning, you are going to, you're in for a great time. I don't like to waste my time. So I also don't like to waste other people's time. So I'm really prepared to make this session really full of information and practical information and insights so you can walk away and really begin to implement. So yeah, my ask of you is to really be present, get a notepad, get something you can write with so that you can walk away with the points that you come up with. I know we're always multitasking, so you probably have many tabs open. I'm going to invite you to really try to give yourself the gift of this 90 minutes or 75 minutes that we have left, and give yourself the gift to be truly present with us by minimizing distractions. So give me a yes. I've got the chat open. Give me a yes in the chat if you're going to be fully present and participating. If you can be fully present, that would really, really be helpful. I'm a coach, and naturally my style is to use my coach training in my webinars, in my training. So if you've ever worked with a coach before, you will know that one of the ways that they actually support you is to raise your awareness. I call it making the unconscious conscious. They raise your awareness so that you get new perspective, new insights, new thinking that will really help transform your experience, your mindset, your attitude, your behavior, which then helps you create better results. So really become conscious to things that are affecting and impacting your performance, behavior that you are not conscious of. And this is the thing, when you know better and you're equipped to do better, then you can do better. So that's what this session is all about, really introducing you to ideas and helping you to do better. So the team could go ahead and share the agenda, what we have in store for you today. So really, we're talking about three areas, looking at the principles for achieving a steep upward trajectory in your career. So principles for realizing your potential, and we're looking at positioning for bigger opportunities, and really three practices that could help you to convert your opportunities into results. The title is Realizing Your Potential, realizing your career potential. So looking at the principles, the positioning, and the practices to make that happen. Now, if you're registered, you would have received a workbook. So go ahead and bring out that workbook and take notes. If you did not register, it doesn't matter. You got pen, got paper, get your phone. You could still make notes, so you would still have a great time. If you want the workbook, then you can go ahead and register, and it will be sent to you afterwards. So, who is ready? Who is ready? Let me get a yes on the chat if you are ready. Who's ready? Who's looking forward to this session? Who is excited? Let me get a yes in the chat. And as we start, we're going to start by asking some questions. Um, really understanding what is your potential, who determines your potential, and why is it important to actually think about this. So let me get some comments in the chat. What is potential? How do you define potential? And who determines your potential? I think your line is breaking. Sorry, that was just going on mute. Okay. Can you hear? I think everyone can hear me okay? So, what is your potential? Yeah, I can see Pa said what you're made for. What is your potential? What determines your potential? High potential as possibility. It's around what's possible for you, who you're capable of becoming, what you can do, what you can achieve. That's whole potential. And the question of who determines your potential, the reality is you determine your potential. I liked Dr. Ibikunle's introduction where he talked about the fact that, this is a Christian platform. And we know that the seed of our potential is really put in us by God. And here's the fact, here's the truth. God doesn't make second class children, right? We're all first class. There's no firstborn, second child, third child. There is no favorites. We're all children of God. So you have the seed of a great future in you. You have the seed of a great future in you, irrespective of the field that you're in. We are all made to shine in different fields. We're made to shine in different sphere of life and influence. So the seed of potential, I strongly believe as a Christian person that is planted by God. But how that seed grows and what that seed grows into is up to us. That is a bit that it's in your control, right? It's God and man working together. So if you don't do your bit, the seed will be there, but you may not get the fullness of all that it is capable of, right? We all know that a seed needs to be planted on the right soil. It needs to be you have to water it, you have to weed, you have to put everything around it that it requires to grow and blossom. And that's what it is, right? You have the seed of greatness in you, but the nurturing and the planting, and that is what makes it blossom. And that is your responsibility. And that's why you're here. And if you're watching on replay, that's why you're here. You're already taking responsibility. That's why you're here. So, why is it important for you to think about your potential? I've just said it. Who you become is for you to determine. And if we don't take the aim of affairs, if you don't take control, then you just end up not maximizing. And really, I don't want that for myself, right? I want to fully realize my potential. I want everyone around me to fully realize their potential. Because when we all do, that's how we all end up leading fulfilling and really, really thriving lives, right? You fulfilling your potential in your field allows me to even become bigger and better, right? It's all together. We don't need just one person shining. We all need to be shining in our fields. That's what makes a better world for each and every one of us. And if I think about my own journey, I actually started off life as a pharmacist. I studied pharmacy. Halfway through my degree, I realized that actually I wasn't enjoying my pharmacy degree and I did not want to work as a pharmacist. So I remember actually going to my university's library and going into the career section and searching like what other things are possible for me to do. That's when I discovered the whole world of financial services. And then I realized, oh, actually, this is interesting. And I read, okay, I could train to be an accountant. And if I joined one of the big organizations, I'm based in the UK, they're going to pay for my studies. And it's free training, it's good money. That was exciting. And that was how I decided to start making applications to train as an accountant. And it was really daunting. Number one, I didn't have anyone around me that was working in financial services and working in professional services. It was completely new area for me. So it took a lot of work. I was on it really doing, I was demanding pharmacy. I studied pharmacy at King's College London, really demanding course. But then I wanted to do something else, so I put in the effort. So the reality is the potential to become an accountant was always in me. When I tapped into it and did the work, I converted it and made that happen. A few years ago, I got to the end of my accounting career. I was climbing the ladder, and then I decided actually I don't want to keep climbing this ladder. I was really passionate about personal development, really passionate about things like that, helping people become who and what they're capable of becoming. So I did another pivot. I went and retrained as an executive coach, and now I'm working in that. So the seed of becoming a coach, an accountant, it had always been in me, but planting and nurturing it allowed it to be. So I say all of that to say this. I don't know what it is that you are nursing, where you are, but the fact that you're thinking of it, you're dreaming of it, that is the evidence that you are capable of becoming it. So it's just around doing the work. And sometimes it's a lot of work. So it's a lot of sacrifice. I've had, all those career pivots that I've made. They've demanded a lot from me, but the reward on the other side is always really, really more fulfillment. So I really want to encourage you. That's just a charge before we get started. The Remember, your potential is not fixed. It's there for expansion, right? Years ago, what you thought you were capable of, what you thought you were not, maybe things that you thought you couldn't achieve, you may be working in the reality of that now. So whatever it is that you're thinking you cannot achieve now, well, no, just put it aside. Think about, how can I make it be? How can I make it happen? So that's a few, just some preamble to get us started, but we'll get into the workbook now and really, really get into it. But the key point there is just really take the helm of control, be the person to drive what you want. The seed of greatness is there, but you've got to nurture it. So moving on to talk about the principles. If you're still with me, it's hard when you're doing this thing. Normally, I do Zoom webinars so I can see people or I can see live chats, but I know there's a little bit of a delay on YouTube. So if you're still with me, let me just get a yes in the chat so I know you're with me and I'm not talking to myself. Yes, let me get a yes in the chat. I've got my phone here looking at the chat. I'm waiting for that to come in. Um, 3 principles for realizing your potential. Thank you to everyone interacting. Principle number 1 for realizing your professional potential: know what you want. I think I've alluded to that with some of my own story. You have to know what you want. If you don't know where you're going, everywhere and anywhere will look like it. So you must ask yourself, like, what is your ultimate destination? I know a wide range of people here now. You might be, maybe you're in a full-time job, you're looking for work, or you're self-employed, or you're a student. A lot of work I do, I'm really focused on supporting, as Dr. Ibikunle said, career professionals to advance in their career, overcome limitations, and really go as far and as high as a desire. But number one thing that I realize is sometimes we know what we don't want, but we're not always clear on what we do want. And knowing what you want is really important. So in your career, think about, what is your ultimate destination. I always use this analogy: you're like a bus moving, right? I'm based in London. We have the London Red buses, and every bus has a destination. There's a point where it's going. The bus driver will get off, take a break, and the engine will be turned off because the bus has come to its end of the journey. Think about that end of that journey as you, when you live your corporate life, when you retire from corporate life. It doesn't mean you're retiring from working, but you're a career person now. At the point when you're retiring from corporate life, what do you want to have achieved? What do you want your corporate legacy to be? Think about that, because you want that to be fueling your decisions around how you manage your career, how you navigate your career. I'm going to invite you to take a minute and just write that down. Now, I want you to participate in this. So don't say, I'll think about it after the session. Whatever comes to you immediately, just write it. Whatever comes to you now, just write it. I want you to really, really walk and move with me. So where is your destination? Where are you heading to in your career? For me, I run the coaching practice. So I have a destination in mind, how I would want my coaching practice and my organization to evolve. So like you, so you should also have something in mind so that you can navigate correctly, like I said. Again, going back to the analogy of the bus, I hope you've written something down. Um, in terms of the analogy of the bus again, the bus has a final destination, but of course, it doesn't just move from the departure point directly to the arrival point. Like, that's not how it's going to happen. Like today, whatever it is that on your mind that you're thinking of, well, it's not going to happen tomorrow. There are going to be stops along the journey. So I always invite people to consider, what is your next stop? You know your ultimate destination. What is your next stop? You know, because that is important. That is the immediate goal. So I want to invite you to think about, where do you want to be by the end of 31st of December 2024? What would have made this a good year for you career wise? Let's focus on career now. What would have made this a good year for you career wise? Again, I want you to write that down. So by the end of this session, you have some ideas that you're leaving the session with, that you can really begin to take action on. So that's the next question. Though the first principle of realizing your potential is know what you want. And then I'm asking you to consider, where is your ultimate destination? Where do you want to be by the time you're living your corporate life? And then, based on where you are now, where is your next stop? What's your next arrival point? That is really, really, really important. You don't want to be on a journey that is just you're just moving and you really don't have a clear destination, clear stops. That's not helpful. So I hope that helps. Now, principle number two, you have to know the game. Know the game. Knowing the game is about having an understanding of how things work. We must understand how things work. There's a beautiful verse in Proverbs I like, and it says, in all you're getting, get understanding. In all you're getting, get understanding. And there's also another beautiful verse in the Old Testament that says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And Dr. Ibikunle alluded to this at the start of the session, that this is really why he's created this platform, to empower people and equip people to be marketplace leaders. And this verse always speaks to me, because there it's saying, my people, now God, quoting God in the scriptures, it says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So they're not destroyed because their enemies were powerful. They were not destroyed because the challenges that came upon them were too strong, too much for them. Or the challenges were overwhelming. They were destroyed simply because they lacked knowledge. They lacked knowledge. And this is what this session is about. Know the game. So specifically, what are we talking about? You have to have the knowledge of how to win in your area of endeavor. Now, let's say your next stop that you've identified in step one, principle one. Let's say your next stop is to get promoted by the end of the year. Well, do you know how people get promoted in your organization? Do you know whose support you need? How do you get the support? What do you need to demonstrate? Well, that's how you win in the marketplace. You need knowledge. Getting promoted is not just about doing a good job. You have to actually understand what happens in your organization. There's certain expectations of you, and that you're fully aware. Let's say again that your next stop that you identified is that, oh, there's a particular job that you want. Do you fully understand what's required to get that job? Do you fully understand what you need to demonstrate in your interviews? Do you fully understand the sort of CV that you need to put together to demonstrate that you're worthy of being interviewed for this role? And that's all about the game. Now, that we can pray, we can know the scriptures, we can do so many other things, but without that knowledge, we really cannot win, because we're in a life where there are principles that make things work. So knowing the game, know the game. I don't believe life is a game, but I think there are parallels that you can draw, that it's like a game. And what do I mean by that? There are rules of winning a game. Many of you watching me are going to be, you're going to be maybe fans of sports. You can watch a football match and you can see by the way a team is playing, you already know this team is not going to win. The way they're moving on the field, this is not how you win a match like this. So that's how our lives, our careers are. There's a way that you can be navigating that based on the insights that you're working with, that one person, an informed person will look at you and say, well, this is not going to work. You're not going to win this way. So know the game for your field. I run a coaching business. It's important for me to understand how to build a successful coaching practice. If you're in the medical field and you want to rise in your field, if you're in academia, wherever, if you're working, if you're a civil servant, wherever you're working, you must know how to win in your field. You must understand what constitutes success and how do you make yourself a success. So the action point here is I want you to think about what we talked about in principle number one, where I asked you what's your ultimate destination for your career. And then secondly, I asked you what's your next stop. So I want you to think about, because you need knowledge of how you're going to make it happen, right? What are some ways you can begin to get that knowledge? I always invite people to consider who is currently operating in the role that you would like. So think about your next step, think about your ultimate destination. Who is operating in that role? Well, study them, study their history, try to understand how they landed in that position. Not so that you can copy, no, because you don't need to be copying anyone. You need to create your own path, right? You need to chart your own path, but so that you can be informed, again, increase the knowledge of how things happen. We set our goals, we set what we want, and I think that how we make it happen will reveal itself as we take steps. I remember when I started my coaching practice, I only knew I wanted to build, run a coaching practice. The next step was then, okay, well, how do I do this? And then I started doing some things. It wasn't quite working well. Okay, well, this is not going to be the way to win. What else do I need to do? And I really connected with some business coaches that really began to show me the way and give me information that I did not know. I knew how to coach, but I really didn't know how to build a coaching business. Many of you are technically strong, you know how to do your job, but you don't know how to run your career. You've got to learn how. You've got to learn how. You come to sessions like this, connect with people that know more about, that are specialists in this area that may be able to support you. Connect with people that are doing well in their career that can give you guidance. But getting the know-how is important. It's critical. Remember that the scripture in the Old Testament, God, our Father. If you're Christian, you believe God is your Father. You believe He's the wisdom that put the entire universe together. He says that we people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge, not because of racism, not because of their enemies, not even racism, right? There is a knowledge of how to overcome racism. If you're in a racist environment, if an environment is challenging, you can get access to the knowledge to navigate. Because if you think about it, there are people who have risen in their careers, even in spite of racism. I know a lot of people that are listening to me. You live and work in Western countries. You may be a minority where you are. You have challenges around maybe having been respected, with being respected in your field, maybe because of your background, but wherever it is, and that's challenging. I acknowledge that. But I always invite people, be inspired by people who have conquered. It doesn't matter the challenges. I'm sure there's a ray of hope. There's someone around you, maybe not around you. There's someone in your field, maybe not in your field, or somewhere that you can connect with that that managed to achieve. Let that inspire you to be okay. Well, they did it, so how can I make it happen? I remember TD Jake saying one thing, watching one of his YouTube videos, and he said, if he can find one person that did something, one person that did what he's trying to do, if he knows it's possible. So wherever you are, I'm sure you can find a Black person that has succeeded. That is the evidence that it's possible for you. The question then becomes, how do you make it real for you? And that's why you're here. It's about doing the work, getting connected with people that can help you. So that's principle number 2. Get connected. So the task I asked you there was to think about the who you can learn from, who can help you, whose story can inspire you. Study people, see how they got there, and see how you may be able to do that. But knowledge is never exhausted, right? The ultimate destination, you've just put that. I'm sure you have no idea how you're going to make it happen. That's absolutely fine. If you've put a goal, if you've put a challenging goal, a worthy goal, then my guess is you are not going to know how you're going to make it happen. And that is absolutely fine. For some of the best goals, you don't know how it's going to happen because you're stretching yourself. But this is the bit you are going to find out. You are going to find out because you're going to be resourceful. You will do the work. You do the work. You do the research. You connect with the people, and you will figure it out. That's what happens. All inventions are based on that. People don't know. They just keep trying and then they figure it out. Okay, so we're going to go to principle number 3. Are you still with me? Principle number 3. Are people still with me? And principle number 3 is in the it's easy because it is maintaining focus. Maintaining focus on what you've identified in number 1 and number 2. Because the reality is there are going to be distractions, there are going to be distractions, and there are going to be discouragements. How will you stay on track? Is focus. Years ago, I read a book, it was by Mike Murdoch, and there was a line in the book that said the number one reason why people do not realize their potential or why people do not achieve their goals is because of a lack of focus. And that has really, really stuck with me. Let's go back to the analogy of a bus, right? Your career, that's the bus. It's moving to its ultimate destination. There's stops along the way, different jobs you're going to do in order to get to that destination you have in mind. But guess what? On your journey, you might hit traffic. You might come across some roadworks. You might, be unfortunate and come across a drunk driver that is just, that starts throwing objects at you for no reason. Think of the drunk driver, quote unquote, has a really challenging colleague or a challenging environment that you work in. Maybe it's your dream job. You were very happy that you're getting the job. You go in there and it turns out to be a nightmare. It's a toxic environment. All of those are just, troubles that come your way. And when we are working towards our goals, towards our destination, things like that are inevitable. The issue is, how are you going to manage that? Because often it is how we manage those situations that make or break us. It can either accelerate us on the path to our journey or it can derail us. In those moments, how you respond really, really matters. Are you going to get distracted? Are you going to get bogged down? Let's say you have a challenging colleague, you're going to get bogged down, doing tit for tat with a person, such that the traffic ends, the bus, the traffic is end, people are moving, but you're bogged down, you're bogged down in a situation, in a struggle with someone, and it just, completely derails you. Sometimes I'm coaching people and they've gotten themselves into a situation at work, perhaps situations that they should just have ignored. It's not ideal, it's not right, but just, you know, lose the battle to win the war. But they don't. They get tangled in it, and at the end of it, they actually, it takes a lot of their time, a lot of energy. They're fighting battles that, if they just left it, they would have had more time and more energy for something far more beneficial for themselves and their career. So, how you deal with those distractions? I know I'm fully aware that there'll be a lot of people here who are listening to me who are, maybe in your workplaces, you might be minorities, and there are challenges that sometimes come with that. How you manage that can really, really make or break you. I really want to encourage you to apply a lot of wisdom and don't get bogged down in battles that just drag on and take your time and energy, but don't really change things for you. I always encourage people, stand for your values, but also always think about your end goal in mind. You want to leave situations, challenging situations, with as little damage to you as possible, so that you can continue on your journey uninjured, right? Still whole, right? Okay, great. So, my question for you, the task here, I'm inviting you to consider, where are you getting discouraged and where are you getting distracted? What do you need to do to get back on track? Because getting back on track is really important. Um, expect distractions, expect discouragement, but the important thing is not to stay there, but to keep moving forward. So, where are you getting discouraged? Where are you getting distracted? And what do you need to get back on track? Write some points down so that you can take action on that at the end of the session. So, we've gone through the first part of looking at the principles. We've gone through the first part of looking at the principles. We're going to move on now to talk about the positioning for bigger opportunities, which is all around creating your own luck. So again, we're going to look at three positions. If there are any questions coming through, then please feel free to put any questions in the chat. If you're benefiting from this, let me get your comment in the chat as well. If there's any points in particular that is resonating with you, I'd like to let me know. Put a point in the chat, and let me get some feedback. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie says she really appreciates this. Great. So we move on to positioning. Three positions to take to attract bigger opportunities. you know, I hope, like me, you don't believe in luck, right? There is no luck. We're people of God, we believe in favor. But this is a thing though. We also believe we are already favored. The ultimate biggest favor that you can receive is to come into the realization of knowing God. And if you belong to this network, Marketplace Kings and Priests, you already know you have that realization. So you are already favored. You are already favored. It's very important to realize that. So you're already favored. So I talk about creating your own luck, quote unquote. So in terms of the positions, it's really around how you behave. How you behave. If you think about the principles earlier on, the principles were really talking around who you needed to be in terms of you knowing the game, knowing what you want. It was all personal, but this is the positioning is all about. It's a bit more, it's external. So number one position to take if you're going to realize your potential in the marketplace is you must recognize your strengths. I went on mute. I don't remember where I was. I'll start again because I don't remember where I was when I went on mute. But positioning, the number one position to the position number one to take in realizing your potential is that your number one job is to solve problems. Be a problem solver. That's the position. You must make the shift mentally that you are a problem solver. No one hires you in your job, in your employment. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You have been hired to solve a problem. You have been hired to solve a problem. You have been hired to solve a problem. So you must see yourself as a problem solver, not just doing the job. And there's a different way you approach your job. There's a different position psychologically. If you're seeing yourself as solving problems as opposed to just tick boxing doing a job. Now, I'm going to invite you, if you want to realize your potential in the workplace and attract bigger opportunities and create your own luck, I want to encourage you to engineer your position in our work. What do I mean by that? Position yourself to solve the most important, the most relevant, and urgent problems in your teams. Why? Because that will keep you relevant and it will increase your value in your team. You are positioning yourself to solve the most urgent, relevant, and urgent problems in your team. Why? Because it positions you to be relevant and to increase your value in the team. And there's another thing. It is work that is seen that is rewarded, right? So it's important that people see and experience your work. If you don't, if you're just head down working, people don't really know what you're doing, your leaders aren't seeing your work. When it comes to promotion time, when it comes to talking about you, but they may not have a lot to say because they haven't had visibility of what you were doing. So one of the ways you can, really, really position yourself is to do work that is visible. Now, in many organizations, in many teams, the leaders will have their eyes on the urgent, the important, and the most relevant problems. They will have their eyes on that because that's important. The urgent, the most important, the most relevant. So if you find yourself working on those sorts of projects, well, you're going to get visibility, and that's only going to help you. Right. So that's really important. We're in the position where there's so much change happening with AI and so many things happen. We know, right, that AI is going to cause some jobs to go, but it is also the case There's certain jobs that AI cannot replace. And even with AI coming in as well, it's also going to create more opportunities. Are you positioning yourself to take advantage of that? I remember years ago in my career where then what was coming in was that a lot of um, certain roles were being moved out of Western economies into cheaper economies. So work was being moved to be done remotely in Far East. And for me, was for me to think about, well, how do I position my career, my expertise, such that my work cannot be done overseas, so that I remain relevant. And that was what I did. So that my talent remains relevant, it remains relevant into the future. I think for all of us, we have to do that. As a career professional, you have to do that. As this, even as a student, if you're studying a degree, you're studying a course, you have to make sure that whatever it is you're studying is not going to be something that is going to be redundant in the immediate future because of the introduction of AI. So be a problem solver. Like I said, if you see your work as just a job, you'll be limited. Now, this is the thing. As you solve problems, you open your mind to more possibilities to evolve and get better at what you do. If you see it as problem solving, you really open your mind to more possibilities to evolve and get better at what you do. Now, the bigger the problem you solve, the more reward, right? The bigger your reward. That's why your leaders are paid more than you, right? That's why the people in the C-suite are paid more than the lower level managers. Why? Because they're solving bigger problems. That's why usually it's the CEO is the most highly paid. Why? Is carrying the burden and the weight of all of the organization of the function. So the more complicated the problem you solve, the more reward. The better and more efficient you're able to solve um the better and more efficient you're able to solve the problems, the more you can command in the market. It is work that is seen that is rewarded. What is HR doing? Well, HR's job is not to promote you, right? It is your job, each individual's job, to position themselves for promotion. So HR is to ensure practices are fair and all of that. But the reality is, anytime, let's face it, anytime that you're dealing with human beings, there is going to be subjectivity coming into place. So even the best of HR organizations, it's not going to really erase all subjectivity. I think you have to take absolute responsibility for positioning your work such that your work is seen and and is rewarded. Right? We have to take responsibility. Right. So we've talked about being a problem solver. The second positioning point is that be an excellent value add. Be an excellent value add. So it's not just about what you do, it's how you do it. I think there's a song that like along that line. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's not just about solving problem. This is really important. It's about leaving a sweet taste in people's mouth. I'm sure you've had the experience where maybe there's someone, in your workplace that is technically sound, they know a lot, but they're just a nightmare to work with and people avoid them, right? You don't want to be that person. You want to be a problem solver, you want to do great work, but you also want to do it in a way that is pleasant and leaves people wanting more of you. It leaves people wanting more of you. I always make this joke, don't be like my hairdresser. She's very good, but I really go to her because I don't have a choice, right? She has a bad attitude that I have to put up with. And I know as soon as I find someone else that is local, that does my hair the way I like, I'm leaving her. That's someone that does a good job, but that doesn't really leave a good taste in my mouth. So, how do you ensure that you leave a good taste in people's mouth, if you put it that way? It's really around, I'm going to encourage you, especially as you become more senior in your career. Many of us will really, really lean into our technical expertise, and that's where you start from, but don't let that be that's all you're known for. Right? Go beyond that. Master emotional intelligence, master influencing skills, master relationship building skills, going above and beyond what it is. Imagine if there's chaos at work and you are known and well regarded as the voice of reason. That when there's tension, where there is stress, you are the one that is coming in and you have this, voice of calmness and reasoning, that's going to be a real value add. Your leaders are going to notice that notice that. And if you had your, really other attributes to that, it can really position you to do very well in the marketplace. So ensure that you're developing your leadership skills. They call them soft skills, but they're not really soft skills. They are skills that contribute, that add to your technical skills and actually allow your technical skills to deliver fully for you. Okay. um and that it also contributes to really building your reputation. Isn't it a nice thing? Yeah, as you become more senior in your career as well, I always tell people you don't want to be the person that always has to apply for a job. You want to be a case of, oh, people tap you on the shoulder to come and work for them. One of my clients recently, and whole boss just reached out to them and asked them, I'm in this new place now. I'm building my team. You interested in working for me? And that's how they got the first executive position. Why did they do that? Because they had a positive relationship with the whole boss. They had a good relationship. They demonstrated value. They've left a good taste in people's mouth that people want more of them. So I hope I made that clear. The third position, again, is just as important. And it is this: be an initiator. You want to be the person that initiates things, not that you're waiting for things to happen. Initiate, don't wait. I say lead, not react or follow. And again, Dr. Ibikunle actually alluded to this at the start of the session when he said, you want to be marketplace leaders, be an initiator. There was a time where I was on a development program at work. It was a leadership development program. And as part of that program, I should have had access to certain opportunities, stretch opportunities to grow my career. But it wasn't happening. Opportunities were going to other people. And I had to initiate and really have a meeting with my leaders and do a presentation and present to them to let them know the challenges I was having and what I needed from them so that I could realize my potential. So it's not a case if at work you're not getting the right opportunities to grow, well, don't just fold your hands. Really reach out and have the conversations. And if you're having the conversation and people are not responding, people are not supportive, I think that is an indicator that you may want to take your talent and skills elsewhere to a place where you'll be respected, where you will be celebrated, and where you will be rewarded. Right. And sometimes, people, we stay too long in an organization, maybe because of fear. We're not getting what we want. We're not getting the growth. We're not getting the opportunities, and we stay there. Well, if I want to encourage you, don't stay longer, because if you're not getting the growth, if you're not getting the opportunity, that tells me they're not really valuing you. But go where you're valued, because it's hard to thrive in an environment where you're not valued. That's like, you planting your seed in hard soil. You know, uh, it's going to be harder. It's more work for that seed to survive, right? So take your talent where it's appreciated, where it's celebrated. So if your leaders around you are not giving you the opportunities that you need, I don't think you should jump immediately. I want you to really take the initiative, have the conversations, be bold. Don't think people know, or don't have, oh, like what someone said earlier, isn't it HR's job to support, to make sure that people are, I think that's what they're saying, to make sure that everybody's work is seen and rewarded. Maybe in some organization it is HR's job, but if it's not happening, well, don't sit and fold hands if your work is not being seen. Draw people's attention to it. So ask for opportunities, invite people to lunches. A lot of I recognize a lot of the people that are listening to me by being people, again, you'll be minorities in the workplace. Maybe you work in environments where you are quote unquote and only, maybe the only black person or the only African. And I know that those situations like that can even have its own unique challenges. But I really want to encourage you to be bold and not be quiet if you're struggling. And I know that's something that I have been a victim of, where I was struggling and then I just kept quiet because I just thought, "Oh, I'll power on." No, don't power. You do what you can, but if you're really struggling, you must ask for help. You must raise your hand up and initiate those conversations. The other area is around relationship building at work. Now, as you rise in your career, you begin to realize that um, so I'll answer that question from Pa. Let me just finish this sentence. So please leave it up so I'll remember to answer it. You can leave the question up. In terms of relationship building, so relationship building is really important. And I said, many of us, we have multiple degrees. I see people, they're struggling to get a job. The next thing, I'm going to do a master's. You can't just keep collecting all these letters after your name, because the letters after your name, except those letters are required to get the jobs that you want, then yes, keep going for the masters and the qualifications. But if they're not required, if you're, let's say, your white counterparts are getting jobs without all these qualifications, you have to ask yourself, well, is it worth me keep spending money on these qualifications? What else can I need to work on? Maybe I need to brush up my interviewing skills. Maybe I need to brush up my communication skills. What is there? Other things that you can work on. So relationship building is one that I think many of us don't really invest time in, whether we're shy, or we just don't we don't lack the awareness of the importance of it. But I want to really encourage you, build relationships at work, allow people to know you, allow people to experience you, share about yourself. I remember there were times, earlier on in my career, on Sundays I'll spend my Sundays in church, and then I'll get to work on Monday. People are talking about their weekends and what they did, and they'll ask me, "How was your weekend?" And I'll just be quiet. And it came across as if I didn't have a life and I didn't do anything outside of work, but it wasn't true. Maybe Saturdays I was volunteering in church, Sundays I was in church. I had a good weekend. I loved my life. But then I was hesitant to share that part of me because it was different from what my colleagues, predominantly white colleagues, were doing. But the life they live is a life they've chosen. The life I'm living is a life I've chosen, and I like my life. So I had to get to the point where I got more comfortable to share about what I do, so that people can experience me, so that my personality at work is not very different from my personality at home. And we need to mirror, so that at work you're not a different person. Because for you to realize your potential, you also have to shine, right? People have to come into, the scripture comes say talks about people coming into the brightness of your light. If you go to work and you're dimming your light and you're not fully expressing yourself, let's say you're quite a chatter person, you like to get to know people, but then at work, people don't see that part of it. I think that is dimming your light. That is not allowing people to come to the full brightness of your light. Now, obviously, there is caution. Work is work, so it's not a case of just letting it all out and letting go. But I want to encourage you to allow people to experience your personality and not hide. And I know as minorities in the workplace, that might be an area that will struggle with, but it's important not to hide. Now, to go to the question, how do you draw attention to your work practically? For most minorities, showing off ourselves is not our culture, it seems. So that's a very, very good question. So if you think about the point I made earlier, number two, around how you realize your potential, we talked about you have to know the game. You have to know the game. So if in your environment, it's important for people to know about your work, and if you don't do that, that is you not playing the game well, and you're playing the game to your disadvantage. And I think sometimes we conflict talking about your work to being showing off. That's not showing off. Showing off is bragging. Showing off is boasting. And I don't agree with the principle that Africans don't. Well, I can speak for Nigerians. Nigerians show off all the time with our big cars, the way we throw our big parties. We show off. So the idea that you go into the workplace and, oh, I don't want to show off, I think it's just no. We're just it's not valid, right? We don't show off because we lack confidence, or there's always something else underneath it. I think sometimes we use that excuse of showing off, but let's say it's actually real, that culturally it's not. Talking about your work is not showing off. It's like putting your CV and you put all your qualifications. Many of us, we have so much qualifications, right? You've studied so much. It's like having all these qualifications and then you don't put it on your CV because you think it's going to be showing off. It doesn't make sense. If you've done a good job, draw people's attention to it. You you're drawing them to the attention to the work that you have done. So you've done a piece of work. Maybe you're having a team meeting. Well, talk about it. You have an opportunity. Let's say you solve a problem. You solve a problem on a project that some of your colleagues might actually benefit from knowing about it. Well, share about it. That's not showing off. You're talking about the work. So very important not to conflate talking about your work as showing off. No, it's sharing knowledge. It's sharing knowledge. It's demonstrating the value you've added and letting people know that is not showing off. And again, I'm going to say the point for many of us Africans, we show off in our privately, right? So show off big cars and all this stuff. So in the workplace, if you do all of that privately in the workplace, you're hesitant to talk about your work. I think it's just misplaced priorities. So hope that answers that. So number third, number three, any? So I hope I answered that. How do you do it practically? I've given you some ideas. Talk about it in team meetings. Talk about it in conversations with your manager. Let's say you do a good piece of work and maybe a client compliments you. Well, forward the email. Maybe they sent you an email complimenting you. Or forward your email to the manager and just say, "Oh, I'm really pleased. I got this email from the client. I'm really pleased to read it." Let them. That's not showing off. You've done the work, you're just letting them know it's information. Okay, let's move on. The third positioning. Is this helpful? Let me get the feedback in the chat. Is this helpful? Okay, I think actually I've covered all the points on initiating. I've covered all the points. So when it comes to positioning, let me do a quick recap. The three principles. The first principle for realizing your potential, know what you want, know your ultimate destination, know the next stop that you're getting to. Number two, know the game. Know the game. Remember this. If you remember nothing, remember this. In all you're getting, get understanding. Number two, my people perish for lack of knowledge, not because of the enemies, not because of racism or anything. It's just lack of knowledge. So any challenge you come across that you're facing professionally, personally, let the first question be, how can I solve this? Who can support me? Where can I get the knowledge? Every problem is a knowledge problem. Every problem is a knowledge problem. Even think about some of the health challenges, like some, the incurable diseases we have now. They're only incurable because we don't have the knowledge of how to do it yet, right? Diseases that were incurable 30, 40 years ago, many of them are no longer incurable. Knowledge has advanced. So think about your own challenges. Wherever problem challenges just always come, this is a knowledge thing. Let's say you're facing racism at work, people are not supportive. It becomes, okay, how can I get these people support? Okay, who can I talk to about this issue that might be able to give me some guidance? So you're always really focusing on the way forward. So that's the principle. Number two, know the game. Number three is maintaining focus. Maintain focus. That is really important. We talked about there'll be distractions, there'll be discouraged, maintain focus. And then we'll talk about the positioning for realizing your potential. We've talked about be a problem solver. You're not just doing a job. Really see your work as problem solving. And then number two, we talked about be an excellent value add. So the way you actually solve the problem, leave a good taste in people's mouth. Let people want more. Be the person that, maybe, years down the line, people are tapping you on the shoulder for jobs. You are getting called, not that you're still submitting CVs. You're being headhunted, right? Wouldn't you like that? You're being headhunted and being invited. This is the thing also. As you get more senior in your career, you cannot rely on application on LinkedIn for jobs. Some of those good jobs, by the time those jobs are coming on the market, they already have their eyes on who they're giving it to, right? They already have their eyes, who the person that is within their radar, the person that is within their network. But you can be that. Don't say, oh, that doesn't happen to Black people. No, it does happen to Black people that are well positioned. So get the knowledge to position yourself correctly. So be an excellent value add. And last we talked about being an initiator. Now we move on to the final part, which is the three practices. Three practices for realizing your and potential. So practices to convert your opportunities. This is all about self work, doing the work that's required, doing the work that this is the bigger, and really, this is actually the reason that I came into coaching. When I did this work in my life and I saw the impact that it made, it really got me interested in coaching. This is like personal work that you do to get out of your own way, personal work that you do so that you are not the block, you are not the obstacle, that the person that needs to be bound. When you go and you're binding, you're not you're not binding yourself. This is the work. So the first practice is mindset work. Mindset work. What's mindset? Many of you may not really be aware of mindset. I never took a class in secondary school, in university, throughout all my professional qualifications. I never did anything on mindset. And mindset is the most important thing. Mindset is often what determines the outcome and how you're able to navigate life and really create the outcome you want for your career. So, what is mindset? I think really simply how the mind is set, how your mind is arranged. Let's put it that way. But more specifically, is around the beliefs and perspectives that you hold. Beliefs and perspectives that you hold, um, and those beliefs and perspectives, they drive the meanings and interpretations that you give to things. They drive the meanings and interpretations that you give to things. So can you see how important that is? Because mindset is the reason why the same thing will happen to two people. One person will just get over it, and the other person will be dragged into it, and they might not start in for years and not be able to overcome it. What is the difference? It's really around how the mind is set. That's the difference, because it was the same thing that happened to them, but the reaction and the long-term impact was different. So here's the reality. Um, yeah, so mindset, I like what they've put, is how your mind is set, how your mind is arranged, and specifically is around the beliefs, the perspectives that you hold. And those beliefs and perspectives are really driving how you are interpreting your world. It's what you believe, and what you believe and think of yourself, what you believe and think of others, what you believe and think of your environment. Maybe you're in the mindset that, oh, as a black person, as a black person working in the UK, working in this Western countries, in Canada, Australia, Germany, wherever you are, oh, I cannot rise. I can't really get to the top of my industry. It's a lie, because I work with people across Western economies that are at the top of their career. They're doing well. So if you're of the belief that I cannot rise because I'm black, well, I would say you have a limited perspective. And that's okay. Maybe that's because of your environment. Maybe that's because of what you're seeing. But that's why you're at this event, to introduce you that yes, people are rising. Black people are thriving. They're getting good jobs. They're moving. Yes, there are real challenges in the world. We know that, right? There are real challenges that's why you have the big D&I practice. But the reality is this: that you want to just you acknowledge there are problems, but you want to do the best that you can do on your side to make sure you are well positioned to convert your own opportunities. So, mindset work. And I think over the years, for all of us, we all pick up maybe unhelpful beliefs, unhelpful perspectives about ourselves, about the world around us, that can really, really disempower us. And it can be disabling. For some people, it may be, you're quite harsh in how you judge yourself. Maybe you think you're not good enough. You've told yourself, oh, because of your accent, because of this, I can't do this, or I can't be this. Or you play the comparison game. You go to work and you're comparing yourself with all the other people at work and saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not like them, I'm not good as them. But the problem is, while you're playing that comparison game, you are actually diminishing yourself. So rather than focusing on yourself, what you need to work on, how you need to shine, if you're constantly comparing yourself with other people, that's the downfall. That's the problem. It's the comparison that is disempowering you, not not the fact that you are not good enough. So that's really, really important, the mindset work. So I want to invite you, be very careful in how you internalize negative situation. So maybe you do a piece of work and you get some really harsh feedback. Like, this is something that comes up regularly in my coaching sessions. People have had really negative experiences at work, and it really continues to haunt them. They lose their confidence. And so this is the thing, right? Whenever you have a negative experience, have a negative feedback, just think about the how you minimize the damage. Think about, what do I need to take out of it? What do I need to take out, and what do I need to discard? That's really, really important, because if you don't discard, um if you don't discard things, if you internalize it, think about, people give you feedback on your work. It's just a piece of work. If you take the feedback and you work on it, next year you will do something different. You are going to change. We've all had, like, negative feedback. I remember early on in my career, I had the feedback that I was too shy, I was timid, I was reticent. I didn't even know the meaning of reticent. I had to read the word reticent in the dictionary. But the reality is, today, nobody would describe me as reticent, because I've done the work and I've outgrown that. So whatever feedback that you've had that maybe has made you lose confidence in yourself, isolate the feedback and just say, okay, what can I do to improve in this area? Don't internalize it. Don't let it become an identity, that, oh, I'm not good at my job, or I'm not good enough. That is you turning something negative into an identity. That's not an identity of a child of God. Again, I connected to this program is Marketplace, Priest and Kings. And you know what the scriptures say about you. You know what the scriptures say about you. You're not your work. You're not the piece of project that you did. So really, really important that you actually understand, get very clear on what you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, because that really begins to influence what you think is possible. I remember speaking to someone, they're Nigerian. They went to one of the top universities in Nigeria. They had a job here. It was quite a low level role. And we were talking about, what's possible for them. And they were thinking, what? They would like to become a senior manager. But then they told themselves, I don't even know what's jumped on me that I'm thinking I can be a senior manager. Like, what is in a senior manager? You are brilliant. You did well in school. You know, but the mindset of I can't become a senior manager is going to stop them. So except they change that mindset, there is no hope for them. So if you have that mindset where you are reducing yourself and there's no basis for it, then you really, really want to check that. So hope you've gotten something out of that. Really manage those negative situations, because that's what happens is during those negative situations, maybe you have a racist experience, and because of that, that just completely um rewires how you think, what you think is possible for you, and you begin to drop your expectations of yourself. Don't do that. That is you disempowering yourself. Okay, so I want you to think about, what are some disempowering beliefs that you have internalized about yourself? What are some disempowering beliefs that you have internalized about what's possible for you in your environment? Here's the thing, at the very beginning, where I actually ask people, what's possible for you? What's your ultimate destination? Some of you might have actually identified something quite small, because you're operating from a mindset of, actually, well, that big thing is not possible. Oh, I can't make it to the C-suite. Oh, I can't be, the MD of my organization. I can't rise all the way. That's a whole disempowering mindset. I always check, I tell people, what do you desire? If you desire it, it's only because it's possible, right? You're intelligent folks. If you're listening to me, you're intelligent folks. I'm sure there's no one here that is, at the moment, you're thinking, oh, I'm desiring to be an Olympic swimmer, or I want to win. If you're desiring something, it's because there's a seed of possibility there. Now, does that mean the person you are now can achieve it? Probably not. But this is what it means. It means you can become that person. You can grow to become that person. And I've told you my example of being told I was shy. I'm naturally shy. I'm still shy. But the reality is, my shyness no longer stops me. My shyness is not a block to me realizing my potential, because I've done the work to not allow it to be. So that's what I'm inviting you to do, that wherever you are now, just do the work to overcome the barriers and the challenges that you've identified for yourself. Not settle with it and say, oh, this is impossible because of this thing that I have, or how I am. The number two work is actually closely related. It is the confidence work. do the confidence work. I always say this: the first person you have to sell yourself to is yourself. The first person you have to sell yourself to is yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, how are you going to get someone else to believe in you? If you go into an interview and you're already thinking, oh my goodness, this job is bigger than me, this job is I'm underqualified for this job, and that is where your mind is, how are you going to convince the interviewer to see that you can do the job? Because you haven't sold yourself in on yourself. So the first person you have to sell yourself to is yourself. And lack of confidence will stop you from position, will stop all of us from positioning ourselves for the right opportunities and for the right job. So if you're going to convert opportunities, do the confidence work. Grow your confidence in your abilities, in your capabilities. Fill the gaps. So identify the areas where you are lacking confidence, where you know your confidence is not as high as it should be, and take some action. Not just sit on it, talk about it, talk to friends about it, talk to people that can't help you. Actually take action that can move you forward, because life is all about closing the gaps. You're at point A, you want to get to point B. A to B is a journey. You just need to close that gap. So if your confidence is low in one area, maybe you're someone where actually it's public speaking, you want to go into more senior roles, but part of that senior roles is going to require you to do more public speaking, and you've told yourself, oh, I can't do public speaking. But that's a lie, because public speaking is a skill. You can learn it if you put the time to it. You can learn it. You can get a coach to support you. If you're lacking confidence in certain areas, you can get a coach to support you. That's a lot of the work that I do, supporting people in areas like this. Whether it's me, or you find a course, or you get a book. Sometimes you get a book, and the book might be the what you need that helps you to overcome a challenge. Sometimes the book is not enough. You actually need to work one to one with someone to help you overcome whatever that challenge, or do the work to build confidence in the areas where you are lacking confidence, because if you don't, it continues to hold you back. Okay, and then number 3, the final work that you have to do is enterprise. The enterprise work, I say, you are a business unit. You are in the business of you. You are an enterprise. So it's we can see it's Ayo Shokumbi Limited. I can see some people, it's Jetunde Oni Limited. You are an enterprise. You are in the business of you. You have to understand that you are in the business of serving your skills, your talent. So recognize and know how to become a more skilled version of yourself. How do you become a more skilled business person daily, in the way you serve your skills, in the way you serve your talent in your field? What would increase your value in the marketplace? How do you sharpen how do you sharpen yourself up? Many times we always default to qualifications, and that is good if that is what is needed for you to move ahead. But don't just default to getting more degrees if it's not a requirement. There are other areas that you may need to work on. And I remember someone telling me, they were struggling to get a job, and then the next thing, oh, I'm going to go and do a master's. I'm like, well, think about, they're based in the UK. Like, well, think about your other colleagues. This is someone of African heritage. Do your white colleague, you're already more qualified than than most of your white colleagues. You're going to get more, get another degree. Do you really need another degree? Right? The people that are doing the jobs that you want, do they have this qualification that you're going for? But the qualification, they say, oh, the qualification will give me an edge. No, qualifications do not give you an edge, because in the Western economy, many more they value experience. Many of them value experience a lot more than just getting degrees and degrees. Your experience, your practical experience, how you are in the workplace, that adds more value. So get better at your craft. Understand, what do you need to do to get better at your craft? What do you need to be able to add greater value? Because you are an enterprise. So practice 3 is your enterprise work. Do the work of really increasing your value, knowing that you are an enterprise, you are in the business of you. So how do you get better at the business of you? Right. Okay. So that is really all I had to cover. So realizing your potential, we've talked about We've gone through all my notes. We've talked about the principles. We've talked about the positioning, and we've talked about some practices that you need to embark on. These are very important. If you do this, this is continuous work. You do it at this level, then you get to the next level. You do it. It's just continuous work. As you move up, you're always doing the work at the next level, right? So it's been a pleasure. I trust you've gotten a lot of value. Do connect with me. If I'm on LinkedIn, so you can display my page, get in touch. So the work I do is around all of this, helping people realize their potential in the marketplace, helping people overcome limitations, really excel in their career, fast track their career and be all they can be in the workplace. So it's been a delight. Thank you so much for being a very interactive audience. For everyone that was, giving me the feedback on YouTube, then thank you for that. So we can take questions. So when you have more professional qualifications than what is required for the role, is it relevant to put them all on the resume? This is one of those answers where it depends. If you if you think it's not going to be a distraction, I was reviewing someone's CV and they were applying for a role in what's it? They were applying for a role in IT. Yeah, it was around IT project management, and then they had qualifications relating to marketing on their CV. I'm like, but how is this relevant? This is just a distraction because someone sees your CV and they see the marketing and they're like, okay, what is this? A project management CV. So you don't want your CV to be a distraction. It has to tell a good coherent story. So if you have qualifications that are not relevant, that are more likely to raise questions and be a distraction, then hey, you might want to see what is it, do I really need to put it on there? So the answer is that it depends. But what matters most is that your CV tells a good story that shows that you are going to be a real value add for the role that you're applying for. And then when you get into the interview, you build on that and really, really demonstrate and showcase the value add. So don't put things on your CV that are going to be a distraction and is going to be make the hiring manager to be questioning, oh, why did they have that? Because they don't have the time. If they're questioning and they're distracted, you are reducing your chances of being called for an interview because they're going to be what you want is for them someone to be looking at your CV and just be going tick 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 because it matches exactly what they're looking for. So hope that helps. Happy to take any more questions, and we can also invite the MCAP team to join me on stage. Thank you so much. But do continue.
Thank you so much. I am personally empowered, enlightened. Oh, I'm blessed. Thank you so much for doing this. And honestly, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to this. And if you put, and personally, when she was speaking, I was just connecting because I have practiced most of these things that she mentioned. And I can tell you, in 6 years in my career, in my company, I attained the position that will normally take 15 to 20 years to attain just because I did most of those things she mentioned. And I'm hoping that one of these I'm going to do a session on just talking about my experiences in my current company, how I became I climbed the ladder that should take 15 to 20 years in 6 years. So thank you so much. And I believe somebody is getting it's really taking advantage of all these things that she has actually said. Thank you, everyone saying thank you. Mayokun, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Coach Buki. That was a fantastic session. Some of the takeaways for me, I don't know about every other person, but some of the things that I wrote included one particular thing that I absolutely loved was the bus analogy. It made so much sense to me, especially because currently I'm in Nigeria. I understand what traffic looks like in Nigeria. I understand the fight you're fighting with Agberus when you don't need to, how it distracts you. And then when the traffic is cleared and you are free to move, you've already lost that energy because you were fighting with someone you should have just ignored. So that analogy really, really took it home for me. And then another thing is, I wouldn't know if you haven't listened to the previous session that we had in December, where Dr. Ebikule talked about strategizing for success for the year 2024. I'll strongly advise you do that, because some of the things that Coach Buki talked about were in line with some of the things that he had shared. In particular, when he said there was something she said as regards remain relevant. There was something she said as regards aligning your career with the organization. I mean, if you're in an organization that they are not forward thinking, you probably shouldn't be there. If you're in a role that can be replaced by AI in the next 3 years, you need to start thinking of ways to make yourself relevant. These are some of the lessons that that we've already put out in the previous session. I will strongly advise everyone to go listen to it. And another thing that Coach Buki said that also hit home was talk about your work. Nobody can blow your horn better than you. Talk about your work. You're not showing off. You've done the work. Be proud of it. And then this part, she
Absolutely.
said, disabuse your mind. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Disabuse those mentality that you've built up to yourself to say you can't attain this, and disabuse your mind again in the sense that look at the career shift from being a pharmacist into accounting. Those are two parallel lines. And then if one person has done it, that's to tell you it can be done. Thank you so much, Coach Buki, once again. Once again, everyone, thank you for joining. We promised 1 hour, 30 minutes. We do not want to exceed that timeline. Allow me once again refer you to please follow us on all our social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. We are Marketplace Kings and Priests. Please join us. Coach Buki, we also hope that when we call you again, you will be available to come for another session. This was really insightful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sure.
And
We'll do.
lastly, thank you. Lastly, please, if you joined by a link that was forwarded to you, meaning if you did not register for the masterclass, we might not be able to forward the workbook. We already sent the workbook during the class. If you joined as a result of a link that was sent to you, you didn't register for the masterclass, we will not have your email in our database. You may not be able to get emails as regards our upcoming events and all other offers that we might be having. Once again, thank you everyone for joining this masterclass today. We wish you all the very best in achieving your professional goals, and do enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Let's appreciate. Thank you, everyone. And you can go back and rewatch this. It's on our YouTube channel, please. And like I can't overemphasize this. I have about 1 minute. Please follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere we are there. Share this good news. Share with your friends. Share with your colleagues. And God bless you as you do that. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or your day or your evening. Once again, Coach Buki, I'm personally grateful. And I know everybody on behalf of myself and my team. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.